Welcome to the Studiotopia Creative Question Challenge. The Creative Question Challenge, or CQC, is a new brainstorming format in which speakers explore and present creative questions in a 30-minute dialogue. Audience members can submit their questions as comments in the YouTube stream, and they'll be relayed to us to answer halfway through the procedure. Studiotopia is a European initiative that invites scientists to work alongside artists to address issues of sustainability. The artists and scientists will work together over a 17-month journey, and that journey starts today. I'm the catalyst moderator of the discussion today. My name is Christos Karas. I'm the Executive Director of the Onassis Cultural Center in Athens, which is a partner in the Studiotopia program. And we have with us today Hypercomf from Greece, which is a multidisciplinary artist identity materialized as a fictitious company profile founded in Athens, Greece in 2017 by artists Yannis Koriopoulos and Paola Palavidi. Based between Athens and the island of Tinos in the Cyclades, Hypercomf has developed an international practice producing location, site, and time-specific projects and activations. The team focuses on targeted collaborations with individuals, communities, and locations ranging from musicians to scientists and community choirs to urban rooftop pigeon keepers. The scientist who will be working with them is Markos Digenis, also from Greece, who is a marine biologist, who has collaborated across scientific fields to answer scientific questions related to benthic communities of different marine areas, alien species, and phylogeny. Previously, he has worked with the Museum of Natural History of Crete, the Institute of Marine Biology, Biotechnology and Aquaculture, and at the Hellenic Center for Marine Research and the Hellenic Center for Marine Research. Well, it's great to have you all with us here, and the people who are watching within the Ars Electronica Festival. I'd like to start the discussion with a question that's quite related to what's happening now in the sea, especially in our part of the world. We're witnessing a very strange, worrying, and kind of crazy confrontation between two nations who are actually in 2020 still speaking about the possibility of war over riches from the sea. So this kind of contestation of the ocean and seeing the ocean as a source of wealth rather than a resource for, let's say, common use of humanity is coming to the fore in a very frightening way, and increasingly over hydrocarbons, which in itself is also quite insane, because in our state of climate emergency, and if we are to meet our targets, we shouldn't be using any more hydrocarbons, let alone trying to extract more quantities from the ocean. So I'd like to ask you both how this kind of political confrontation, these kind of risks that are emerging in relation to the ocean and our management of the ocean impact and inflect your thinking about both art and science and how you might work together. Hypercomf, would you like to start?
Sure. It's very interesting that you bring this up, because especially here, it's been a big part of the news lately, but it's always been a problem, and similar problem exists in many countries, and they exist kind of all over the sea, because it is very easy to claim territory for things that profit you, like the wealth that comes from the energy that comes from the ocean, but it's very hard to take responsibility and consider territory and responsibility towards that territory when it comes to all the other problematics like pollution, like overfishing, like what happens in international waters. And it's like a place where it is invisible. It's as if we hadn't seen it in the news, we would probably have no idea what's going on. It's a very mysterious place. It's not easy to be there and witness all these things, witness all the problems that are created, witness all this animosity that's being created. But it has to do like a lot with the responsibility.
Yeah. I think this is all upon territory. It's about, for me, it's a total, we have to cultivate a completely new approach. Like the sea, it's not territory of nations, but it's mostly a global skin in a way. It's like it's a super organism about all of us, not territories, nations, and stuff like that. So,
exactly. It's moving. It's a fluid thing. It's not always the same water in the same place, or you can't treat it like individual pockets.
Right. Markos, how does this all affect your way of thinking about your work?
So we all have to have in mind that our sea is endangered with very different threats. So one threat for our country, especially the last months or years, is the extraction of hydrocarbons. So in a country like Greece, where the studies of the marine biodiversity in deep sea is very limited, and from these few studies, we have already known that we have new species and very valuable species for science and for humanity. Is a very risky action to extract hydrocarbons from very deep, very big depths. So this is one big threat at the moment, but as my colleagues from Hypercomf said, overfishing is another very big threat. It's a global threat. Decades now, we have eliminated the populations of many different species without knowing exactly how this population will react in the future, if they will increase again or they will disappear. Some species will disappear. So another big threat is pollution, chemical pollution, which is specifically at some places, and plastic pollution, which is a very huge topic at the moment and for very serious reasons. Except of this, a very serious topic is also alien species, which are marine species that are coming, marine and terrestrial species that are coming from other areas, from outside of Mediterranean. For marine species especially, we have very huge problem with marine species from Red Sea, which are coming from Suez Canal and from ships that are taking water to balance, and they are from different countries, and they release the water again to the sea, but in a different ecological region. So this affects the local ecosystems. So we have many different topics to discuss.
It's interesting because you mentioned alien species, and alien species can be seen from the perspective of a marine biologist, and alien species can be seen from the perspective of a critical thinker, let's say. So I wanted to ask another question. You're being asked to work together over a 17-month period within this Studiotopia project, and I think one of the great challenges is that artists have one set of concepts and tools and approaches that they work with, and scientists often have a different set of concepts and tools and objects and whatever that they work with. And somehow we have to engage in a kind of translation process in order to be somehow comprehensible across these different sets of working. And I was wondering how you imagine in the course of the working together that this translation process might work. Hypercomf.
I think it's a very interesting and a project that it has a very sensitive balance between these two concepts. The practices, they're very different, they're very similar in many ways, but the important thing is the balance, because in many occasions it happens that science basically does all the work and art takes all the credit. So you need to kind of find a balance where both are contributing the same amount and doing this translation and not just reacting to each other's mere presence or presenting each other. So this is something that I wish that we're going to really also practically, both theoretically through talking, also practically deal with, like both engage practically and hands-on or like digital technology on with the same issues and constantly exchange theory, but also like practical examples. of how this can happen, to make a nice merging, a balance between these.
As we're living in an epoch of hybridization, in a way, it's a nice challenge. It's a potential challenge for something new, most advanced tools and other stuff in this kind of concept. So,
and art can bring a sensitivity, and science can bring the data, the given, but also like we can't become like just mere data collectors in this planet. We need to have the human essence is much more important. Whenever we focus on data, things go bad. We need this logic and sensitivity. This is what makes us more capable than anything else. So we need to like fully engage with all our aspects. And it will be a good balance between these two practices. Like it will be a good result out of this.
Yeah.
Marco, how do you see this process of translation of languages and concepts?
Personally, I think that through collaboration of art and science to be in contact with people and to inform them about the threats of the sea or issues that we have these years and are very, very serious, is this collaboration is very very beautiful and very good, because art gives more emotion, more bigger and more intense contact with people, and science brings more information and data in a simple way, in a very simple way. So if we combine the information and the contact with the people, I personally think that it will be more, it will be better for people to understand it, to feel it, and to feel more closely to the sea as they were before. We all know that civilizations and people centuries ago were a lot more close to the sea, and from their way of life, the way of thinking, of working. Today it's not the same. Many things have been changed. So I personally think that this collaboration will bring new things, and through technology of 2020, we can create amazing new things.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope so. I don't see any audience questions, which is understandable because it's Saturday lunchtime, at least in Europe. So people have got better things to do than ask questions. I have a question, however, one which is related to the idea of speculation. I think today a lot of artwork, especially in the art science collaboration, has to do with creating a speculative narrative. What if, or deviating from what is sort of the standard model and seeing what might happen, with technologies, with environmental issues, with everything, and creating, a story, a narrative of some kind around this speculative process. I was wondering, first of all, and I'll ask this first to Markos, whether science is also in some way speculative, and then to both of you, how this kind of speculative process might bring you together. So Markos, does science have a speculative dimension as well?
Science helps people to improve their knowledge and their contact through citizen science. I don't know if we are all familiar with citizen science. It's about people which are not scientists, they don't, they are not familiar with marine biology or ecology in a more professional way, but through their passion for nature, for sea, they collect information, they collect data from photos of different creatures, and this is very, very important and helpful for the science community. This is the biggest movement, let's say, that science have done the last years, and I think this is very important.
Hyperconf, what about speculation with science and with input from either citizen science or just science in general? How do you feel about this?
I think it's natural in a way to feel the speculation and all the sci-fi aspects of modern life. Actually, because in a way, humans find themselves distance from the natural will and their instincts in a way. So during this distance, the only thing that they can do is to speculate and fetishizing their relation with the nature in a way. So.
Yeah, I think it means also like, because whatever example usually comes up as scientific or as speculative, it always, there's an increase of technology and a decrease of the more natural kind of living instincts. And it's a bit like ambiguous and funny because you would think that people are trying to become more green, more organic, more biotic, but you're thinking, is this like some sort of eco-guilt, as they call, that is manifesting how we really want to really believe that there's not a new order of things that we and previous generations are to blame for? So we look at more like scientific examples of very high technological interaction. And I like jokingly said data collectors before, but we kind of are. And we're also always looking for technology to define ourselves through social media, through like all the knowledge that we can accumulate. So we always define ourselves by something we created. So we're always defining ourselves by us. It's like a loop that is happening, but it's accelerating to the future. So yes, it will be, science will be much more prominent than art in the future, I think. So it's interesting to now try to balance and create this more human aspect of it to avoid the big trap of going all the way at it, like it has happened with social media a lot, which is very psychological and it's easier to happen. This could happen very much. Like we need a good balance between human and science. Science is knowledge about human, but it's not human. It's not being that. There is no, like artificial intelligence as well is a very funny idea because you are creating it. So you just, it's your creation. It's not on its own anything. It will never be. You will always have created it. So like there's no hope there. There's no torture or torment or doom there. It's what we make. And it's a good time to balance things out now. Now is a good time. Like not,
now it's about time, as we were saying in our discussion a few days ago. So one last question before we start wrapping up, which is, you know, for both of you, or three of you, what ideally, what do you want to get out of this 17-month process? I mean, where do you imagine you'll be in terms of your own thinking and practice in relation to this project? 17 months on, ideally, what would you like? Hyperconf.
I think we want to do something the most highly social impact. Basically, whatever it is, whatever it takes to make, or whatever, every hybridization between art and science, something to be not like something for us or for the project, but some like a tool of communicating these aspects that we are talking about.
Okay, Markos, because we have an audience question. So, Markos, what do you imagine coming out of this?
I hope that through this creative idea, people will feel how an artist is feeling and how a scientist is feeling, and to see through these eyes, through their eyes, through a marine scientist who is trying to collect data to see how different threats make impact at our sea, and to see how artists can with their own power can change the way of thinking of the people. So I hope that people will have the opportunity to to see through a scientist's eyes and through an artist's eyes, and to feel all these threats from different aspects and through a very creative way. Yeah.
It's interesting because your answer, Markos, is actually quite close to the audience question, which was, do you have an idea of the type of connection that people will have with the problems of the sea when they experience the outcome of your Studiotopia work? So in fact, what you answered was in a way very close to what the question was, I think. I mean, I see. Would you say that, would you have anything to add to that question? About the kind of connection that people will have with the problems of the sea?
Yes, I would add that nowadays people at cities that are not very close to the sea, to nature, do not feel it yet. So intense that, for example, fishermen do, because they see the problem every day in their work, every day in the field of economy, in their lives, in their families. So one extra interesting aspect and goal for us would be to get in contact people that are very close to nature, and feel all these problems, to get in contact with people that are not so close for different reasons, and feel the same way and understand some things that are happening right now and are serious, very serious.
Hypercomf,
would you like to add anything to the idea of the connection that people might have?
I feel like with what Markos said, it's basically, it's the great unknown. It's out there and it's not easy to see it, but you will feel it all of a sudden when it goes very bad. And it's kind of also a very interesting relation we have with sea. We have for our vacation, we expect it to be idyllic, but only where we go. We don't know what's happening behind or further out. So to be able to see all this, and we're experiencing this on the island very much, where going through the seasons was a very windy island as well. So we are very, and the biodiversity that we can see that is changing, even in the 10 years that we have been here.
Yeah.
We're very close to this, and we really want to make sure that people understand how big it is, because they will be very upset
when they see. Yeah, I agree. So, okay, we're reaching the end, and now I have to ask you both, well, both groups, to create your own question. What do you think is the real underlying question? So you have, a minute to say what you think the real question is in all this process. Hypercomf.
Like we could go both. I think it's how we define our identity as part of the natural ecosystem. I think it all starts from that, from politics, territory, economy. It all starts with your idea of who you are here, of whether this is your paradise given of wealth and is supposed to serve you, or whether you are a true part of it and you feel it to your bone. You don't go, this is my garden. You are like, I am the garden. This is it. It's a true connection to that.
Okay.
So that's good.
Marco, what would you say your question would be? Hypercomf said the question of, we have to understand what our identity is in relation to the ecosystem? What would your question be?
I would agree with Paula that our connection with nature has been lost in many different ways, and our biggest mistake right now is that we define ourselves as humans and out of nature, but we are humans, we are not animals, or we have created technology and tools and all this, and we create our own world. In a way, this is true about technology, but in another way, we should never forget that if we lose this connection with nature, we lose ourselves because we are not separate from nature. We are not separate from animals. We are not so special as we usually think for ourselves. And this is not bad. This is what it is. We are part of nature. Nature is amazing. We have a lot of things to learn from nature, because all that we have done is from mimicking different techniques and different aspects of nature. We should never forget that all that we have learned is from observing natural phenomena and mimicking them.
Okay, we're getting to the end, so I want to ask you again, both groups, how you think we'll bring answers to the question. Just a very quick idea about how you think we're going to answer the question you said. Hyperconf, 30 seconds.
Collaborations.
And setting new triggers for all of this.
And like community practice collaborations, targeted collaborations.
Okay, Markos?
Yes, I would say that one way of changing this way of thinking is through collaborations of artists and scientists, through collaborations generally from people that are not related with science and artists to be related, and but it's so big issue, so huge that of course we have a lot of work to do.
But we have to start somewhere, so
yes,
we're starting now.
yes.
It's going to be a 17-month process. Thank you very both. Let's see how it evolves. I wish you both a lot of luck. Thanks to Andrew Newman from Ars Electronica. Thanks to the Ars Festival. Thanks to Studiotopia. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone, and see you all very soon, I hope. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day.